Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the public information meeting for state project number 148215, the replacement of bridge numbers 3129. I'll start from the top. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public information meeting for replacement of bridge numbers 3129, 3130, 3131, 3133 in the town of Wallingford, Connecticut. All four of these bridges carry state and local roads over I-91. Tonight's focus is on the bridge number 3133 carrying Carpenter Lane over I-91, which was recently added to the project. A public information meeting was held on September 24th, 2025 for the other three bridges, which carry East Center Street, New Rock Hill Road, and Durham Road over 91. Here is a link to the previous public information meeting, which can be found on the project website. Q&As are also available on the website from the previous public information meeting. This link will also be shown later in the presentation and is also on the handouts provided tonight. Louder.
Just a second. We're noticing that the boards here aren't on the topic.
Where else is it? Just a moment, everyone. Sure. Absolutely. Just one moment. We're having some technical difficulties with the online streaming. Okay. Should I roll it back to the beginning? Okay. Apologies, everyone. Starting one more time. Third time's the charm. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public information meeting for the replacement of the four bridges in the town of Wallingford. Bridge numbers 3129, 3130, 3131, and 3133. Tonight's focus is on bridge number 3133, which carries Carpenter Lane over I-91. This was recently added to the project. A public information meeting was held on September 24th, 2025 to discuss the other three bridges, which carry East Center Street, Durham Road, and New Rock Hill Road over I-91. The focus of tonight's presentation will be Bridge 3133. Here is a link to that previous presentation for the public information meeting. It can be found on the project website, and a report of meeting and Q&A from that session are also available. Tonight's agenda includes some minor housekeeping items for items such as the Zoom interface for those joining us live through Zoom, how to ask questions, and an introduction to the project team. Then we'll dive into the project overview for bridge number 3133 before entering the question and answer portion of tonight's presentation. My colleague, Gabby Strain, the public involvement lead, will now cover those housekeeping items.
Thank you, Beth. We're just going to go over a couple things, especially for our virtual viewers. If you are on Zoom, there are a few things you can do to show closed captionings for this presentation. You will click the Show Captions or CC tool in the bottom dock. You will go to Speaking Language English, and then you will select the language you would like your closed captioning to be in from the list shown. Reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be on YouTube in the following days. Closed captioning will also be available on YouTube. You have some information here on your Title VI rights. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. There are a few links there to look at. Reminder, all of this will be on the recorded version on YouTube. Here is the Title VI notice to the public in English here. I will wait a moment for you to read. Once again, this will all be on YouTube. Here is the same Title VI notice in Spanish. There will be a question and answer session at the end of this meeting. There are a few ways you can submit questions. You can submit by email using ctdot.design.build@ct.gov. We also have an alternate email listed there. Please include the state project number 0148-0215 in either email you use. You can send a comment or question via phone at 860-594-2020 or the alternate phone listed there. Once again, please make sure to include a project number. During this live meeting, the Zoom Q&A will be available. Questions will be posted to the Zoom Q&A window, which we will go over in just a moment here. Reminder, all information, including the recording, will be added to the project page listed there. Please note that the comment period for this project is open through July 8th, 2026. For those who are at home virtually attending, the way to enter a question in the Zoom Q&A, you will follow these steps. You're going to click the Q&A tool at the bottom of your Zoom webinar window. The Q&A window will open as seen on the right hand of this slide. And you will type your question in the text box and click Enter to submit your question. We please ask that those attending virtually send their comments through the Q&A feature, not the chat. If you are an audio-only participant, you can dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. I will now pass it back to Beth LaPlante to introduce the project team.
Thank you, Gabby. The project is being administered by Connecticut Department of Transportation through the Alternative Contracting section. The project team is shown here. Here with us tonight is a supervising engineer, Richard Prescott, project engineer, Tom Lance, and from Office of Rights of Way, Kathleen Erickson. This team will continue to oversee the project through the procurement stage, design, and construction. HNTB is providing support to the alternative contracting section. The project manager, Jody O'Connor, is with us tonight. The design build advisor, Chris Youngs, has joined us virtually. I'm Beth LaPlante, the task lead. I apologize for not introducing myself on the very beginning. Later this evening, you'll hear from Raymond Looney, the deputy environmental lead, and you have already met Gabby Strain, our public involvement lead. We have had the pleasure of working with many representatives from the town of Wallingford. At this time, I would like to welcome Mayor Cervoni from the town of Wallingford to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Beth. Good evening, everyone. So looking back at our first introduction to this project a couple years ago, we did meet with representatives working on the project. They met with our engineering department, public works department, public safety representatives, and public utilities to make sure that those factors would be discussed and considered as the project planning went on. When Carpenter Lane was added to the projects to be addressed, another meeting occurred. So I want the public to know that this project has included your local town department representatives for consideration of the various factors that would be important to you. This is another opportunity for the public to gain information about the upcoming project and an opportunity to ask any questions that might concern us. So thank you for attending and your participation and your interest online. And thank you all again for your consideration and our involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We at HNTB appreciate the opportunity to work alongside with CTDOT and the town of Wallingford, and we look forward to continuing this coordination with stakeholders. As previously mentioned, this project is being delivered through design build, but you may be asking, what is design build? Design build is an alternative project delivery method that is different from the traditional design bid build method. For design bid build projects, design is completed first and construction is bid later and awarded to the lowest bidder. Under design build, Connecticut DOT provides a base technical concept, or BTC. The BTC defines overall project requirements, project goals, and the standards that must be met before selecting a design team. The design build team is a single team made up of both the contractor and the designer, who are selected using a best value practice. This selection process is based on qualifications, technical approach, and price, not just the lowest bid. Once selected, the team completes the final design, and they then construct the project based on the accepted design. This approach can improve coordination and help manage risk more effectively. What is the major difference between design bid build and design build? The top graphic here represents the traditional design bid build process. As you can see, the process is very linear. Each step happens one after another, which extends the overall project schedule. At the bottom is design build. During the procurement stage, CTDOT prepares the initial design, known as the BTC, and defines the project requirements. Once a team is selected, they complete the design. At the same time, they can begin construction on pre-approved design elements while remaining design work is being finalized. For the community, this often results in an overall shorter project timeline, while Connecticut DOT continues to provide full project oversight. Now that we know what design build is, let's move on to the specifics of the project. Here is the overall project area map. As I mentioned before, a public information meeting was held on September 24th, 2025 for the southern 3 bridges, which were the original package. Tonight, we're focusing on bridge number 3133, which is at the northern limits of the project area and carries Carpenter Lane over I-91. Let's talk about the purpose and need. We need to do this project to address structural deficiencies for the bridge number 3133 and thereby establish a new service design life of at least 75 years. Now, you may be asking, why was this bridge added to the project? Why wasn't it part of the original 3? That's a really good thing to ask, and the answer is that it's beneficial to bundle this bridge with our project. The 4 bridges were initially built together in the 1960s when I-91 was built. The bridge is in close proximity to the project area, and the bridge meets the criteria for the replacement rather than rehabilitation. By adding the bridge to this project, there will be a reduction of impacts to the public using the roads carried by the bridges and by the public traveling on I-91. Additionally, there will be cost savings and schedule efficiency. The existing bridge today is approximately 30 feet wide for traveling over. When you're driving on it, I should say. The bridge is currently in fair to good condition overall and remains safe for use. However, like many bridges of its age, it's showing normal wear and tear and it's nearing the end of its design life. There are several components of the bridge that are deteriorating from water, salt, and time. So keeping in mind that this is a design build project and that the contractor will ultimately prepare the final design, on the screen is the conceptual layout for bridge number 3133. This concept includes widening the bridge and approaching roadway by about 2 feet and adding a stripe for a shoulder of 5 feet. Overall, there will be drainage improvements, guide rail improvements, and realignment of the existing crosswalk near the intersection of Northrop Road. Before we discuss traffic impacts, I'd like to have my colleague Raymond discuss the natural and cultural resources in the area.
Thank you, Beth. As far as natural resources, early environmental screenings identified the potential presence of the endangered northern long-eared bat and the proposed endangered tricolored bat, as well as the threatened monarch butterfly. Coordination with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service has occurred and has provided a determination that the project is not likely to adversely affect any listed species. No regulated resources were identified within the project area. And coordination with the State Historic Preservation Office and the Tribal Historic Preservation Office under Section 106 has been completed, and no adverse effect determination was received from both offices. Now I will give it back over to Beth.
Thank you, Raymond. So keeping in mind that this is design build, the traffic staging will be decided by the contractor. The concept allows for the full closure of the bridge. There are other options that could be explored, such as doing a staged construction using signalized alternating one-way traffic. If you're unfamiliar with that term, we do have a photo of a sample from a different project on the screen. The more likely situation is a full closure of the bridge with a detour, which would be coordinated with the closure of either New Rock Hill Road or Durham Road. And that is shown here on the screen. I'll leave it here just for a moment so you can look at that. I know that when projects happen near me, this is one of my main concerns. How will it impact me when I'm driving? Utility coordination is currently underway with multiple utility companies. The existing bridge has an active water main on the bridge, well, underneath it. And there's also conduits carrying telecommunication cables. Utility pole relocations are anticipated and are being coordinated with Wallingford Electric and Frontier. Additionally, coordination with other utilities is still ongoing. Minor rights-of-way impacts are anticipated for properties along Carpenter Lane. Coordination with Connecticut DOT's rights-of-way unit is currently in progress. Kathleen Erickson from ConnDOT's rights-of-way unit will explain this process in more detail.
Thank you, Beth. So again, my name is Kathleen Erickson, and I'm a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights-of-Way. Our office is responsible for acquiring property impacts that are needed for transportation projects all throughout the state. So I'll be giving you a brief overview of what the acquisition process looks like. Before I get further into that, though, I do want to mention that the property impacts for this portion of the project are still being finalized, so they could change as the design is progressing. Also, any property impacts that are acquired are done so in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E, as well as the Uniform Act. So the right-of-way acquisition process begins once the project reaches a development milestone and all of the property impacts have been determined. At that point, each affected property owner will receive from our office a formal letter of intent to acquire, as well as a property map depicting the exact property rights to be acquired. And you can see on the screen just a sample of what the property maps look like. Next, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights, which will be used to create an offer of just compensation. The property owner will receive the offer in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with them to discuss the project, their specific property impacts, and the offer itself. The property owner will be given a reasonable amount of time to consider the state's offer and to enter into negotiations. And then once an agreement has been reached, the department will prepare all necessary documents in order to record the deed and the property map on the town land records. Now, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to maintain the project schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. If that were to happen, the state would file a notice of condemnation with the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner would then have 6 months to file an appeal if they felt the state's offer was inadequate. Now, whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money that's deposited in the court is available for them to withdraw at any time. It is important to note, too, though, the state will only be acquiring the property rights that are necessary in order to complete this project. But if there are any questions regarding the right-of-way acquisition process, I'm happy to answer them during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. But for now, I'll turn it back over to Beth to continue on.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we are very close to the Q&A portion. Last but not least, we have the project schedule and construction costs. We're currently estimating construction costs of between $60 to $90 million, and we're anticipating 80% federal funds and 20% state funds. Our timeline here begins in September 24th of 2025, when we had that initial public information meeting that I've mentioned a few times earlier. Today is June 24th, so we're right here for bridge number 3133's PIM. Coming up later this year will be the RFP issue, where we will start having the ATCs, the technical provision or technical proposals, oral presentations, and bid opening while we're looking for that design build team with the best value. In August of 27, the contract will be awarded to that best value team. and they will get notice to proceed in September of 27. Once that notice to proceed has happened, utility locations, early construction, and finalized design can start happening all concurrently, which is part of that benefit of design build instead of design bid build. We're anticipating to have full construction start in spring of 2028, with the project completing by the end of 2030. So thank you very much, and thank you for your patience in the beginning, bearing with those technical issues that we were having. And now I would like to welcome anyone up to the mic here in the audience or to enter their questions in the Zoom Q&A. There are currently no questions on Zoom, but we'll still wait for those. Go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
So formal here. Chris Schrock, I live on 93 North Airline Road. I'm one of exactly 30 homes between East Center and the new Rock Hill overpass. From what I hear, I'm a total fan of making things better. I like what's going to happen here with replacing these bridges. My concern, though, as long as I'm here, and if you're going to spend all this money to replace bridges, the notion of putting sound panels or barriers, can that be introduced in some way? I mean, I've lived here for almost 30 years now, and I guess before I moved in, 91 and 93, those are my neighbors in my house. There was some effort, apparently, years ago, many years ago, to put up a sound barrier of some kind. Nothing's happened, so I figured this might be a good time to ask, just out of curiosity. So could that be considered in any way to? Because also I've noticed the technology of the panels have improved from wood to whatever this composite is. It looks nice. I believe it's just all around a better thing. So just curious if you can add panels. That's all.
So I can start this off, and I might be added on by some other people from my team, but I do know that we have addressed the noise with checking off the criteria list, and unfortunately this project does not qualify for doing a noise study, as it's mostly on just the bridges, and we're not doing any work on I-91. Totally understand your concern, and it's very legitimate. There is a website that I'd be happy to email you later today. I take it that you signed in at the door? You did? Okay. Yes, I can send you some information on that that's available on ConDOT's website that explains it a little bit more elegantly than I just have. Anything else?
Just to add, thank you. Just to add, we'll take into consideration anything that's said here tonight, and we'll be, discussing further with the DOT. So it's noted. Your concerns are noted.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ranjit Bhave. So I have a quick question. I don't see any sidewalks on the bridge. The proposed width is only 2 feet wider than the existing bridge, based on the complete street policies. So we need to have sidewalks on the bridge. So is there any possibility of having sidewalks?
Thank you for that question. So part of Connecticut's process is looking at complete streets, and that does apply more to state-owned and maintained roadways. Carpenter Lane, as a local road, doesn't fall underneath that funding criteria. But what we did do is meet with the planning group at Connecticut DOT, and that's part of the reason why there's 5-foot shoulders on this roadway, and that 2-foot widening is to allow any potential pedestrian or cyclist to more safely traverse on the road. Currently, when we did a traffic count study earlier this year, there were minimal pedestrians found. I don't want to speak to a certain number, but it was very few. So thank you for that question. Okay, well, if there are any questions that pop in your mind, we do accept questions through July 8th. You can access that through our website. You can do that by phone. All the information is right here. But we do thank you very much for coming out tonight. Your support means a lot to us, and your feedback. There's one on there now? Okay. Just double checking that there's nothing on Zoom, but it looks like we're still not online. So thank you, everybody. Have a great evening and drive safely.